Hello, folks. Welcome to Holding On with Holder, where I talk to interesting people about interesting topics. My name is Steve Holder, and I am your host. My guest this evening is Kristin Folts, author, life coach, and energy medicine practitioner. And she's going to tell us what all that stuff means. Welcome, Kristin.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so glad to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. Who are you?
Well, who am I? My name is Kristin Folts, and I essentially help people communicate better with themselves and with the people they love and appreciate. So as an emotions coach and energy healer, I help individuals get down to the basis of their emotional well-being and their health, and help them be able to communicate and self-love with themselves and be able to have a stronger, more relational connection with those around them, essentially. And I use energy medicine to be able to do that.
Okay. Now, your Facebook page says you are an emotions and parent coach. So can you elaborate on that? What does that mean exactly?
Absolutely. As an emotions coach, I help a lot of moms be able to get in touch with their inner child and help them be able to communicate with their kids on a deeper level. As a parent coach and a former social worker in child welfare for many years, I saw the array of relationship dynamics that happened when kids came into foster care, when children were adopted into their forever home through foster care, and helping special needs moms and moms that have come from trauma from themselves, from their own childhood, and helping children heal from their childhood wounds is a combinational 1-2 punch, if you will, of being able to help them on an emotional level, but also support them being able to bring their chaos to calm and build a deeper relationship with their kids along the way. So I use energy medicine a lot to help moms with their mom triggers, help them overcome their fears and their vulnerabilities and their mom triggers, and being able to help them get in touch with their inner child, and therefore help them be able to meet the needs of their kids on a more calm and peaceful, balanced approach. So I'm all about peaceful parenting, connecting from the heart, being able to figure out what the unspoken needs of the kids are when they're, going crazy, running amok, and how parents can, especially moms, can get triggered when life is really chaotic. And so I help them be able to figure out the areas that are causing those mom triggers to get kicked up, and also be able to help them connect with their kids on a deeper level when they're having those tantrums, when they're having those meltdowns, when they're 10 and 12 and 14 and can't articulate, this is what I really need, and it's coming out in behavior. So whether they're little, or whether they're many adults thinking that they know everything about the world and they're just not there yet, I run the gamut of helping moms connect with themselves and with their kids.
Okay, interesting. So how did you become involved in this type of coaching? Did somebody coach you and train you to do this?
Well, my background is in psychology and social work. Many years ago, I was a drug court counselor, fresh out of college, about 15, 18 years ago, and I wanted to go save the world. And I realized that I had some of my own inner wounds were causing some things to, get kicked up. And I reached out to somebody who was, I had known them for a little while. I wasn't really sure what they did, but essentially they helped me connect to the fact that I'm an empath. And if you know anything about empaths, they feel all their feels, they feel everyone else's feels, and all the energy around them kind of gravitates to them. That's one of the beauties of being an empath. And that person helped me realize that the energy that I was holding on to wasn't all mine, and how to be able to compartmentalize that and then decide, is it my emotions? Is it somebody else's emotions? Whose energy am I connecting to? And that started a beautiful process through my education in trauma and child welfare, bringing it a full circle and working with my own energy medicine needs, and then therefore going out and teaching it to others. So as an energy healer is concerned, I had to do the deep work on myself and be able to help others along the way. And it's been a beautiful journey. It's taken me to the TEDx stage. Recently, my book, Intuitive Knowing Her Truth, went international bestseller in 6 countries. And it brought me to you, Steve, actually, through this energy medicine healing journey. We're here today talking about it and how it's come full circle. So I help people connect with their emotions energetically and help them heal from their past.
Yeah. Now, your Facebook says that you are also an intuitive guide. Now, is that kind of the same thing as what you just described, or is that something different?
Well, it kind of interlocks. There are times where our intuition is our inner voice, our inner guiding system has life experiences that doesn't make it as strong of a voice from our inner voice, our inner gut, our inner knowing. Those are the things that we just know to be true. And when life experiences come in and they influence the purity of, connecting with your creator, with the divine, and into your inner knowing and your inner truth, there can be times where there's life experiences that kind of mute that intuition. And so I help individuals along the same lines as the emotion coaching and the parent coaching. I help them really tap into the things that are influencing them not being able to tap into their full intuitive giftings. One of the many hats that I wear is I help other intuitives and other healers grow their gifts, speak their truth, really get to the inner core of their giftings and how to create a spiritual inner truth business for other people, how to help them heal their own wounds. And essentially, the healer is helping other people heal along the way and helping others create their own healing legacy. So intuitive mentoring is along the lines of emotion coaching, but there's also that extra spiritual level that's attached to it, where I take an individual, let's say they come to me and they're like, hey, I have all these things going on. I'm feeling all the feels. I'm an empath. I have some life trauma and I don't know how to communicate with my spouse. We sit down together. We really work out a plan as to what areas they would love to strengthen, what areas they feel are their blocks or the influences towards them not living their best life, things that could be kicking up their self-sabotage or their negative core belief system that says, I can't be successful or abundant or connect with others. And I really help guide them on a spiritual journey of healing that all encompasses the energetic side, the emotional side, abundance, connection, relationship. And it's all this beautiful process of healing, but it's also, in some moments, it's not parent coaching, it's not emotion work, but it's more about tapping into the divine guidance and helping them say yes to their own calling and their own healing journey. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah. Now, your website also says, I will guide you on a path of self-transformation. Now, I guess that's pretty much what you just described, right?
Essentially, yes. It depends. It could be one tiny little thing that you're needing support in, or it could be like, my life is a hot mess. Help me, Kristin. Where do I begin? Where do I start? So it really depends on what kind of group coaching that you're looking for, group intuitive work, one-on-one. I have a variety of different offerings and containers that I can work with someone in a group setting or an individual setting. And it is definitely a personalized journey because your experiences are different than mine. And to have that cookie cutter approach doesn't serve the highest and best interest of my clients. And so that allows me to have the creativity, to have the personalized approach, to have those extra, I call them like care package exhibits, care package elements that I can really go in and personalize the healing transformation journey for that person.
Okay. So you do kind of, I guess, the emotional diagnosis before you start working with somebody, right? Am I saying that
Well,
correctly?
I go in. I'm not a clinical therapist by any sense. I know my way around the DSM-5, and I worked in clinical social work and psychology for many years. But the beauty of what I do now is I have the clinical background, but it is more of a coaching, mentoring, guiding, walking along and saying, one day I could be a cheerleader, and the next I could say, okay, how does that make you feel? And then the next, just really celebrate the lows and the highs with someone. And it's more about having that connection and modeling those healthy relationships that a lot of people sometimes struggle with. That communication level, what is causing me not to communicate? What is causing me to trigger? What is causing me? And I kind of get down onto the core levels on an energetic and emotional level through muscle testing, or intuitive work, depending on what kind of package we're working with and what the person is needing at the time. So using muscle testing or intuitive guiding, I get down to the root of the barrier, influence, block, whatever you want to call it, or the things that are happening in inner child work, 0 to 6, your experiences from 0 to 6, even in utero, influence you as an adult. You can kind of think of it as each life experience, if there was any type of trauma attached to it, it's an open app on your subconscious mind, your computer, essentially, of your existence. And you have all these different apps open, and you're like, where's the music coming from? Where are all the, I need to defrag, I need to decode. And I kind of go in there at an emotional, energetic level, and I go through and I find out, okay, this is something we can take off the system. This is something we can take off. This is something we can heal, transform, and really begin to implement those healthy boundaries, those healthy mindsets, those healthy belief systems that say, yes, I can succeed. Yes, I've come this far. I can go even further. And so it's that shift from survivor or survival to thriver. And it's, chaos to calm, trauma to trust. It's that shifting and that transformation journey that I love to witness and be a part of for other people.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned trauma because that's something that a lot of us have a hard time dealing with, overcoming the trauma we experienced in our younger days and learning to put it in perspective and figure out what makes sense and what doesn't, how it began, and what do I need to do now. So I'm glad you talk about trauma. That's very, very good. So can you be a little bit more specific about how you help people with trauma?
Absolutely. In the process of transforming, in the healing process of trauma, a lot of times it's about mindset, and you just overcome it and you can get through it and you'll be fine. That is not trauma embracing, is what I call it. And essentially it's giving that other person the invitation to feel versus telling them this is how it should be, or this is what your healing journey should look like or feel like or be like. We all have different experiences, and that trauma journey, that recovery journey, looks so different. And so when we're looking at trauma on an energetic perspective, I don't have to do months and months and months of talk therapy or coaching. I can go straight to the source intuitively or through muscle testing, and I can say, okay, there was a trauma at, say, 6 years old, something, it was a big T trauma or a little T trauma, and how it has essentially influenced and it impacted this person's life for many years. They could be 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. They come to me, this is a trauma that happened when they were 6, and I can go in and intuitively work with that person on an energetic level to help heal and invite them to release that memory, release that trauma. And energetically, there's immediate shifts, and allowing our body to integrate peacefully and calmly, and then helping our body implement from there. So when we know better, we do better, right? So when we don't have those traumas triggering us, when we don't have those belief systems that says, I'm not going to be anything, I'm going to be a crazy parent, I'm not going to be successful, and we have those shifts from trauma to trust, we're trusting our intuition, we're believing that we can be successful, that the next time we have a situation that triggers us, we can approach it from a positive approach versus a reactive experience. Because energetically, the trauma is no longer pushing those buttons. It's no longer telling us we're a failure or unsuccessful. It's saying, yeah, we had those moments, but now we don't have the visceral experience, the emotional experience attached to the trauma memory, because our body remembers everything we have experienced on an energetic and emotional level. So if you have had a trauma as a young child, your body's going to remember that, and it could manifest in an illness or a random inflammation, or the body always keeps the score when it has to do with trauma. And energetically, it is a great way to help the body heal, help the subconscious mind heal, is using energy medicine and energy methods that help the body say, I'm safe, I'm calm, I'm no longer that scared little 6-year-old. I'm now a confident, bold, energetic 45-year-old who can take on the world with truth and grace.
Yeah. And that's a big deal. I know that from experience. I've had to do a lot of work with that and get in touch with my inner child and my inner teenager.
Yeah.
And,
I love it. I love doing inner child work with people.
yeah.
It's a beautiful transformation process that I get to hold space for and witness essentially the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. And I love it. It's one of the best things that I get to do as a mentor and coach with others, is watching and witnessing the transformation process that happens through our work together.
Well, I can see where it would be helpful for you to coach people through it, because as you know, bringing up those traumatic memories and looking at them and re-experiencing them in your mind can be traumatic in itself. So it's good to have
Absolutely.
support and
Yeah,
guidance.
absolutely. It is a beautiful process to release trauma on an energetic level. You don't have to talk about the memories. You don't even have to think about it. The subconscious mind wants to release the trauma that's mucking up the operational system, and being able to work with someone energetically is such a gift and an honor. And I realized that we're a spiritual being having a physical experience. And so spiritually, we can be infected by trauma, energetically, physically, emotionally, financially, sexually, connective wise. All of these things can be influenced by trauma. And
Yeah,
it's just a beautiful process. I love being able to help people heal their trauma stories.
yeah. Now, how long have you been doing this?
I'm about 8 years. I did several years of not doing it for clients specifically. I was doing it more for my own healing journey and for friends and family. And then there was a point where my coaching clients were having great success, but I just knew, I kept hearing my own inner voice. You have to do this, Kristin. You have to do it. You're holding your gifts silent and hostage. You have to let this out. And about 4 to 5 years ago, I had some life shifting that happened, and I was like, I am what I am. I cannot, deny it anymore. And I started offering these services to my coaching clients, and it has made all the difference. It has been such a beautiful progression and metamorphosis of my own giftings
Yeah,
and my own callings. So approximately 8 years with a lot of life experience.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that life experience can be a booger.
Yeah, yes, it can, Steve. So much so.
So tell us about the book. I know you don't want to talk about that, but maybe I can force
Okay, well, my chapter in Intuitive Knowing Her Truth it was a compilation of 28 women authors who were telling the world their story, their truth, and standing in their truth. And a couple of years ago, I had a life experience that really rocked my core. It was definitely a big T trauma, and it involved my daughter and life changes. And I had to come to that place as my own inner client, if you will, that said, okay, you got some stuff you got to work through, and beginning to trust myself again, and doing, taking the medicine and preaching to the choir here. I had to go on a self-healing journey, and I reached out to people that were in, my contemporaries and my mentors, and I got some more energetic medicine support. And I can tell you that my healing process from that has been exponentially up leveled, because I said, hey, I need some extra supports here. And it's that chapter talks about loosely that those life changes and how trusting yourself is so important, and doing the hard work and doing the inner work and giving yourself permission. My TEDx talk was about giving your inner child permission to heal. And I had to tap into those things that I was preaching to the choir. I've got about 90,000 views on that TEDx talk right now. And I had to be one of the ones listening to my own message. And I had to give myself permission to heal and go back to those moments that were scary. And I had no control over what was happening in my life. And I'm so blessed. If I had not listened to my divine support team, my guidance system, my inner truth, I would not be able to say that I am an international bestseller. I mean, I'm a girl from, Tampa, Florida. I'm an average person, but it has allowed me to speak my truth, advocate for women who have been silent from their own experiences. And it's given me a beautiful platform to say, listen to your truth, stand in your truth, get the help you need. Let's work together, find somebody that can help you. My giftings are unique in their own way, but I'm not for everybody, and I'm okay with that. But allowing people's stories to be heard and allowing them to be witnessed is a beautiful thing of itself, because so many people are silenced because of fear and vulnerability and threatening situations. And I've been able to have a gifting of saying, this is my truth, this is my platform, this is what I offer. So I'm just so grateful to the Art of Grace Publishing House and the other women that shared their story. But yeah, we go paperback in about 2 weeks, and we went international bestseller and right at 24 hours, and we're in 6 countries. We went #1 in 6 countries. So it's a humbling experience for sure.
So you wrote one chapter and the other ladies wrote one chapter. Is that how it works?
Yes, there is a total of 28 women that shared their truth and their story. And it's been a beautiful expression of my own healing journey. So there's a couple other book projects that I'm involved in right now. And I've already started my solo project, and we'll see where it leads.
Good
We'll see where it goes.
That's a good feeling.
Yes, it is. It's beautiful.
So what advice would you give to people who feel stuck?
I think digging deep and being able to really give yourself permission to invest in your healing journey. For a long time, I had the tools. I knew how to do it. I knew what I needed to do, but I was stuck. I was in that fight or flight zone that trauma causes us to have, and I was frozen. Here I am, the professional, helping other people heal their own journeys, and I was frozen myself. And I had to give myself permission to invest in my own healing journey and feel all the feels. I think it boils down to, you may only have 5 minutes a day to move your life forward in a positive direction. Take those 5 minutes. Take that self-care. Give yourself space to feel the feels and then release them. So whether it's emotions or it's feelings or it's taking a risk on yourself. I think so many people, if they gave themselves permission to go after a goal, go after a life experience they have told themselves no, they can't experience for this, that, or another, their lives would be so much more empowered, and they could stand in their truth and they could stand in their voice and say, I didn't know what I was doing. I know I was shaking in my boots, and I did it anyway. And it's face the fears and give yourself permission to go for it, heal, transform, get out of the relationship, go after the job that you really want, move across country, whatever it is, just giving yourself permission and then standing in your self-truth, in your inner knowledge that this is what I need to do to move forward and heal and transform.
Yeah. And we have to be willing to get out of our comfort zone, right? That's
Absolutely.
a biggie, isn't it? That's
Absolutely.
a biggie.
Absolutely.
So tell us about the book you're working on
right.
now, your solo project.
Well, I think one of my projects is going to be called The Once Broken Healer, The Journey from Trauma to Trust. And that is about just giving yourself permission. It's all encompassing about giving yourself permission, going back to those moments releasing yourself from the self-guilt and the fear and the trauma, and forgive whoever you need to forgive, yourself, somebody else, timing, destiny, whatever it is. And just basking in the success, even if it's a tiny thing. Here's another tip. Celebrate the tiny little steps, because with one tiny little step, eventually you will get to the ending zone of your journey. And it's a beautiful process. One tiny little step, one decision. It's that those moments of when fear kicks in, you say, no, I'm going to stand in my truth and I'm going to move forward despite my fear, despite my worry, despite all the emotions that are coming up telling me I shouldn't go after what I'm wanting and needing and being called to do. So.
Now, you mentioned fear, so elaborate just a little bit of just how crippling fear can be and why we need to really go past that and do it afraid when we have to.
Yes, I love Do It Afraid. For me, fear is false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
And that plays into false evidence appearing real. That plays into how trauma keeps us small and stuck and frozen, and it perpetuates the things that we want to step out in faith on, and we don't because we're afraid, or we don't feel like we are good enough or valued enough, or our voices won't be heard. And it keeps so many people stuck in fight or flight, people pleasing, silently suffering things that could be changed. And for me, it was getting over what other people would say about what I was doing with my life.
Yeah.
That was one of my fears. Many years ago, when I transitioned into more energy work, and I was still coaching, still working with people, but I'm implementing my calling, my divine calling as an energy medicine practitioner, was the fear of rejection, the fear of a very structured mindset of what somebody like me should be doing. Go be a social worker, go save the world. But my definition of what I'm doing to save the world is different than most people's. You don't hear a lot of people being, oh, I'm an energy medicine practitioner. And people look at you like, well, what's that? Well, I help people heal their emotions and have a better relationship with their kids. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So fear is things that aren't necessarily true, that are controlling us and keeping us in a state of chaos. And it's causing cortisol going through our veins. And it's causing us to stay in situations that don't make us feel safe or loved or honored or appreciated, whether it's romantic or parental or in a job. Fear really is to the detriment of the human soul. And I'll tell you what, there's moments where I even have fear. Like 5 seconds before I got on with you, Steve, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And I was like, hi, Steve, how are you? And I had that moment of fear, even though I've done podcasts, I've done a TEDx talk, I was a trainer for years. I still had that moment of, okay, girl, you're gonna do this. And here we are. Yeah. So don't let fear stand in the way of your divine calling.
There you go. I have noticed that after I give any kind of a public talk, I'll do one of two things to myself afterwards. I'll either tell myself that I screwed up real bad and everybody's laughing at me, or I tell myself I done great, they don't appreciate me. One of the two.
Exactly. I love that. I love that.
So you apparently help people to find hope and believe in hope again, Kristin, and that's a good thing. I applaud you for that. You went away and came back. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, you just kind of froze on me. So tell us, your website mentioned something about transforming a chaotic home. You've mentioned that just a little bit. So can you just elaborate on that a little bit, transforming this chaotic home?
Yes. Going back to the peaceful home, a lot of times our children, whether they're in trauma or they've come from trauma, or mom had a stressful pregnancy, a difficult birth, life transitions were happening when they were young, 0 to 6. Excuse me. That can equate to a lot of symptoms of children that are having a hard time focusing, or they're constantly 100 miles an hour, or they can't sleep, or they can't focus, or they're wanting to push away for physical attention or affection. And going in, and it's not like super nanny when you think like, oh, here's the crisis, and she goes in, she taps her little magic wand, and poof, everyone's healed and they're all hugging, singing kumbaya. But essentially going in and looking at the things that are potentially the underlying unspoken core needs of the family individually, mom, another parent, how many kids, and really evaluating the strengths of each person in the family, and how the parent or parents or caregivers, whoever they are, can go in and support the need. So we're focusing, we're highlighting on the strengths of each person in the family and as a family unit cohesively and collectively. And then I'm focusing on the needs of each person. Because unfortunately, Steve, when we experience trauma, the next generation is influenced. And if we don't stop that cycle of trauma and that dysfunction, it perpetuates generation after generation after generation. Yeah. And so another thing that I love is generational healing, ancestral, because with DNA, even if you may not have experienced something and your great grandfather did, DNA wise, he has passed those risk factors towards trauma through the generational lines. It's called epigenetics. And so that's another area that I love to work on when I'm calming the chaos within the family is, what are the ancestral risk factors? What did grandparents experience? What did the ancestors and great grandpa? Because with muscle testing and intuitive work, things come up. Anything can cause anything in energy medicine. And so I'm constantly putting on that detective hat, if you will, and saying, okay, so you have risk factors towards not being able to have a connected relationship with your spouse. And if that's my focus, and I'm working with the subconscious mind, and I'm getting down to the underlying root cause of why that person can't connect, doesn't want to connect, doesn't feel safe to connect. And we're going through the different aspects of what I work on the quantum energetic fields for them as a human, and their different emotions, thoughts, feelings, and their different energetic bodies. Generational work is one of the things that I work on. And when I'm calming the chaos energetically for DNA through the lines, it is such a beautiful process. And I'll find a lot of times that, especially with moms, when we're working on mom triggers, it is something that has been passed down generation by generation. So going back to the root, the cause, the unspoken met need that happened with great grandma is now manifesting in that granddaughter who's had those generational traumas, not even knowing what they have experienced energetically and DNA wise. No. They've been fighting a battle they didn't even know that they needed to show up for. So when I'm calming the chaos, I'm looking at the overall aspects of the family: generational, financial, DNA, emotional well-being, emotional health, mental health. Is there any mental health in the family, and how we can work together energetically to help cause shifts in the spirit, mind, body, and soul energetically to help the body process in a peaceful manner mental health, needs, trauma, epigenetics. I love helping other people heal their stories with things that they didn't even know were even open in the background of their subconscious mind. And so it's not a one size fits all. It's not take a pill, you'll be fine, calm the chaos, as it is getting to the root cause, the underlying root cause of what is ticking behind the scenes for that person that is causing them to be aggressive, to not want to connect with their spouse, to have those mom triggers, to not be able to keep themselves together in school, but yet then they can do fine at home. There's always something to discover and be able to shift it energetically to give that person that calming sense of reality, and then allowing the body to recalibrate. So where they're not constantly in fight or flight, and they're not constantly vibrating at night because they're worried that something is going to happen when nothing has happened to them, or maybe something has happened and their body is reliving it essentially on an energetic level, even though they're not physically reliving it. So it goes the same lines of, when something traumatic happens, we don't typically want to talk about it and we don't want to go back there. So it gets dusted underneath the carpet and then it doesn't get healed and transformed. Well, energetically, I can do that in a safe manner, and being able to get to the root cause to help soothe the subconscious mind, to help soothe the spirit, mind, body, and soul of that person, so they can say, oh, this is what peace is. This is what calmness is. This is what it feels safe to be in a trusting relationship with. Inner child is another thing that is a great tool to help calm the chaos. And, talking to the inner child that comes through for me intuitively, I love working with inner child work because they are so blunt with me sometimes. Like, something will come up, I'll be like, okay, that's really how you feel? And they're like, yes, it is. And I was like, okay, let's transform that. And I'll get a testimonial a couple of days later or a week later. Hey, I didn't feel as reactive when I had a mom trigger. I didn't feel as reactive when my child did this or that. And I'm like, that's interesting. And we talk about how that shift is happening. And then they're aware of what's happening on them energetically and emotionally. And they're physically seeing the difference, where they're not triggering, where they are more calm, where they have more patience with their kids. It's a beautiful process. I love doing it.
Yeah. Well, Kristin, thank you for explaining these things. I can see how you can really help a lot of people. So tell us about your website, and so people can contact you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So it is healinghomecoaching.com. There's information about our emotional healing circle, our monthly supports that we have. We have a private Facebook group that you're more than welcome to join us on. We do, on occasional basis, we'll do monthly trainings and emotional medicine work. We do post in there so you can get some free resources, and then you'll have ways to connect with me further with our packages and services. We have 2 programs coming up. One I do want to mention that starts next week. It's called Trauma to Trust. It's an 8-week semi-live group coaching program where we're going to be, it was inspired by my chapter essentially, that talks about how to go from trauma to trusting your inner voice. And that starts mid-April. And then we have our 9-month experience that starts in August, and that's called Heal, Grow, and Thrive. And you can see my TED Talk on there. You can see different things that I offer on the website, and definitely come see us. And if you are a mom or an entrepreneur that needs some help with mindset work and self-sabotage, reach out to me. I'd love to hear your story, and I'd love to be able to connect with you further.
Okay, good deal. Well, thank you, Kristin, for talking to me. I've enjoyed talking to you, and I will let you go, and I thank you again for being my guest. Folks, be sure and check out Kristin, and she just might be able to help you.
Thank you so much, Steve.
You're welcome. And folks, thanks for tuning in to Holding On with Holder. Please subscribe to my channel and feel free to share this video all over social media. Thanks again, Kristin. Bye-bye.
Thank you.